yourselves.
Good morning, Nevada. I still think it's morning there, right? Good morning, everyone. Mr. Himes, nice seeing you again, sir. My name's Carl Dermody. I'm a retired social studies consultant from Louisiana. Go Tigers.
My name is Scott Barnhart. I'm a attorney from the great state of Indiana. I work for the Indiana Attorney General's Office as Special Counsel.
Good morning. My name is Dan Wong. I am a retired attorney and former judge. I'm also on the board of directors of the Center for Civic Education. I live in Boise, Idaho, and I apologize for not reminding Carl Dermody that it's pronounced Nevada.
Nevada? Nevada.
Good morning, I'm Chloe Menzies. Outside of We the People, I organized my school's Common Sense Gun Reform Walkout, and I will be attending Wake Forest University to study sociology and public policy.
Hello, my name is Jake Harrell. Outside of We the People, I was the team MVP of last year's baseball and first team All-State. This year I'm the team captain, and next year I plan on going to University of Colorado Boulder to study physics.
Good morning, my name is Oliviaschneider. Outside of We the People, I'm senior class president and president of Build On. Next year, I hope to be studying marine science at the University of Miami.
And your teacher?
And we're here today with our teacher, Mr. Milton Himes.
Okay, once again, good morning. First, I want to congratulate you for participating in this year's competition. I know it's disappointing in one aspect, but you're to be admired and congratulated for sticking with it. And one thing you can go on the bright side about is you have home field advantage today. So we're going to get started with question one. Question one today, which reads, in 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Never in the history of this nation have so many people been arrested for the cause of freedom and human dignity." What lessons can be learned from the Children's March in Birmingham, Alabama? What is civic engagement, and what is its significance in American history? What responsibility, if any, do schools have to promote civic engagement? You may begin.
Author Kenji Yoshino writes, "The law may someday move to protect some identities, but it will never protect them all. We can learn from the Children's March that the American government has failed to protect minorities' rights, especially African Americans, and continues that failure today. Children trying to exercise their First Amendment rights in 1963 were blasted with hoses, arrested, and attacked by police dogs. Today, this police brutality against African Americans still exists and has attracted attention through a youth-involved movement, Black Lives Matter."
Another lesson America can learn from the Children's March is people can still make a difference in their societies, even if they have no real voice in government, meaning they cannot vote or are not citizens. We see this today with the country's youth leading movements to solve both national and global issues.
The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, "Everyone has a right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference." Youth-involved movements today include the Never Again movement, started by a group of Parkland students to protest gun violence, and the global climate change movement, led by 17-year-old Greta Thunberg.
Civic engagement is the act of getting involved in political issues that concern both the individual and the community that person lives in. Thomas Elrich, a Stanford professor, states, "A civically responsible individual recognizes himself or herself as a member of a larger social fabric and therefore considers social problems to be at least partly his or her own."
The largest obstacles America has faced have been solved by the participation of the American people. The expansion of suffrage for everyone, besides ex-felons, people under 18, and non-citizens, would not have been possible without the dedication of communities who are fighting for those rights.
Alice Paul utilized her First Amendment rights to free speech and assembly to gather her community and organize the women's suffrage parade of 1913 to push for the eventual passing of the 19th Amendment. Other influential figures, like Fannie Lou Hamer, utilized civic engagement in different ways, like when she organized Freedom of Summer in 1964 to attempt to register African American voters.
Today, people can demonstrate their civic engagement by joining initiatives that focus on the problems that they are passionate about. For example, Nevada had the deadliest mass shooting so far in American history. Nevadans protested in 2018, and it led to AB 291, another gun control measure for Nevada.
Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, "As soon as any man says of the affairs of the state, 'What does it matter to me?' the state may be given up for lost." Civic engagement is the backbone of a well-functioning democracy because it allows people to have a government that serves their interests. A government founded on the notion of we the people cannot exist without constituents being actively engaged in their affairs.
Therefore, it is not only a school's job to promote civic engagement, it should require it. During the Children's March, teachers turned their backs so that their students could march, which eventually led to the desegregation of Birmingham. Today, schools could require seniors in high school to register to vote, hold mock elections, and encourage students to walk out and protest.
Stanford University professor William Damon stated, "Educational guidance that helps students to find reasons to devote themselves to their vital communities will promote civic engagement." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to hold this other question until I get back around. My interest was piqued with one of the last statements that I heard. But let me start with this question. You mentioned the hoses and the dogs with big teeth, and Martin Luther King was worried about sending you out there because he knew it was dangerous. Is there any issue that is out there that you so strongly believe in that you would put yourself at risk like that? Is there any issue that you feel so strongly about that you would put your own physical well-being on the line to protest?
Well, Martin Luther King Jr. said in his letter from a Birmingham jail that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So I believe that if anyone was being denied their voting rights or being treated unfairly by the government, that absolutely I have an obligation to put my life on the line to ensure that they get proper treatment by our government.
Albert Einstein actually wrote in a letter about the Smith Act that individuals must be able to put up their rights and put up what they believe in order to further progress, and saying that individuals might be arrested, individuals might be hurt, but if you truly believe in it, you must give up everything you have to promote change.
Right, well, that was my question. Is there any issue you so strongly believe in that you would do that?
As a young woman in the United States, a movement I would definitely push myself so into a dangerous way is abortion and the right to have that as a young woman. I would engage in protests for that, and I have engaged in the past in women's marches and protests, which did not lead to violent acts, but if they had, or if I had been arrested, it would have been for something I stood for.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't want to take up.
And Carl, yeah, you're having a little bit of microphone issues, just so you know.
I am.
And I want to kind of continue on with Carl's question a little bit and ask you, how are you supposed to perform in civic engagement in days like we're having now, when you're putting either yourself at risk or you're putting somebody else at risk from a harm standpoint, potentially death out there? How are you supposed to balance that possibility and still do civic engagement?
A huge advantage we have today, even during this COVID-19 crisis, is the use of technology and social media. I have seen plenty of platforms promoting information about COVID-19, including Facebook, which agreed to censor any misinformation about the disease. And additionally, people are learning that they can make masks in their own homes for others without putting themselves or anyone else at risk.
We can be civically engaged during this tough time of COVID-19 because we can see people going out to to more rural communities in their cars and masks and gloves on and handing out hand sanitizer or other masks for other people and trying to help those that are less fortunate. So this is definitely an example of being civically engaged today.
And we can see civic engagement has been an idea throughout history, just the medium it has changed. We can see communication theory outlined by Daniel Chandler has proven this point, and we can actually see this point proven in Federalist 14, in which Madison writes that democracy, or in this case, civic engagement, just matters where people congregate, and we can see currently that people have been congregating through the medium of social media.
Additionally, even though I may not agree with it, people are exercising their First Amendment rights to assembly. In Carson City, there was a protest about opening up Nevada's economy again. And so if they're willing to put their lives at risk for something they believe in, then they should have the right to.
Okay, Dan?
And I'm going to follow up with that. The reports is that there's a big demonstration in Carson City this morning against the governor's stay-at-home orders. And so I'm more on that. Are these protesters against the governor's in many states stay-at-home orders? Is that civic? And are they engaging in appropriate or inappropriate civic engagement? More of what? More on that last answer.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety." Although I do not specifically agree with going out to protest during this time because of health and safety issues, these protesters have every right under their First Amendment to be there and to be protesting this.
Additionally, these protesters must be ready to accept the consequences. Due to the 10th Amendment's Health, Safety, and Welfare Clause, states have been given the power to restrict meetings. In Washoe County, meetings of 10 can be met with a fine from up to $500 or more. So if they are going to go out and they are going to protest, then they also must accept the consequences that come with it.
Okay, I'm almost running out of time. You stated that schools should actually require students to vote when they reach 18, force them to vote. Isn't that defeating the purpose, though, if it's coerced and people aren't freely expressing their opinion? I mean, does coercion work?
Well, we did not specify that they would be forced to vote. We simply said they should be forced to register to vote. Oregon found that when they used motor voter and automatically registered people to vote, then they had a higher voter turnout than before.
Additionally, in 2017, we had a 53% voter turnout, which is too low. However, Australia has mandatory voting fines, and they have a voter turnout of 80% averaged every year. So if we were to encourage some type of compulsory voting, we would see a drastic increase in voter turnout.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'll start the feedback by saying I didn't mean to put you on the spot with my question about an issue that you would strongly believe in. Chloe, once she processed it, she gave me the answer about abortion, which, but I had to think to myself, I'd have to think about that. What issue would I feel so strongly about if I saw pressurized hoses and dogs with very big teeth? I would have to think twice about putting myself on the line too. And I do like one of the answers that you came up with about social media. That was one of my other questions about, is it necessary now to physically go out and do these things when you can organize online? And social media has changed the game a lot. So I think Olivia gave me that answer, and I thought that was very good. What impressed me the most, though, and I'll stop after this, was your interest in the history part, since that's mostly my thing. You gave me a nice historical perspective, and through different people, like with the 19th Amendment, and you gave me so many historical examples of people and events that shaped, and your concentration on improving the minority experience in our country. But so overall, I really enjoyed it, and the only thing that's missing from this almost looks like the Brady Bunch. I'm looking at the screen, I'm thinking of the Brady Bunch. Y'all may be too young to, I just saw the reruns, but except for the meals and the sightseeing, I had a good experience. I hope y'all did too. Thank you.
I thought you did a great job. I mean, really impressed by your answers, and along the lines of Carl's comments, I'm particularly impressed by your ability to both use history and apply it to modern day examples. And you're applying both, the Federalist 14. I'd love to hear about the Federalist 14 in the Federalist Papers in general and how they apply today and how they apply in the context of, Carson City and things like that. So I thought that your answers and kind of folding and melting those together, I thought were particularly good. So nicely done. Good job.
I agree with my fellow judges. That was a very well done answer. And I particularly like the answers to the cross-examination questions because my experience is that the ability to answer cross-examination questions with thoroughness and thought means that you've been very well prepared. And I really like the cross-examination answer that has to do with parsing out all the nuances and things that are involved in the protesters against the stay-at-home orders. And it can be done, quite frankly. You can have I agree with you, you can have your First Amendment right to speech and assembly, but it has to be done in an appropriate way. You mentioned the fact that the government does have the power to restrict certain government constitutional rights in an appropriate manner. And so I think that's really the key here, that there are restrictions on constitutional rights and they're not unlimited. I thought it was a very good answer, and I would expect nothing